This is a question from somebody. It says, "Tell me about your days at Dolby working on cassette licensing."
What?
That made you giggle a little bit, huh?
That was like at least 2 years ago. Let's see. I joined. I was lucky enough to join Dolby right out of college, and I had no idea how lucky I was. I mean, I thought, "Whoa, cool!" And why was I so lucky? The brain power on electrical engineering, electronics design, and audio there is insanely good, and I feel like they don't publicize that well enough. You know, they just quietly do their thing over there in the corner, big building. But there's a degree of horsepower in there that's just insanely good. So I originally got hired to help design microchips for cassette decks for noise reduction, and for what at the time was called B-type noise reduction.
The service here is absolute ass.
You want to drive somewhere else?
Yeah, we need to go somewhere else.
This guy. All right.
Can you still hear?
All right. This is Chana. If you haven't seen Chana, he's a little bit colorful with his language, so don't mind that. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
He said something about donkeys. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I did. Is I got hired and worked with the different manufacturers that made integrated circuits that go into cassette decks to implement noise reduction for cassette tape, and then I got interested in surround sound. So like very early on, there was talk about, hey, let's bring this Dolby stereo thing into homes. It wasn't clear that anybody would want it. You're right in the beginning. And like, is this going to be a market? Is anybody going to care? And now people care. They do want to have that same experience, that theatrical experience in the home. It was really fun. I will say something about cassette tape. That really blew me away when I started to work at Dolby on the first few weeks is if you have a decent cassette deck that's got either a 2 or 3 head deck that's reasonably well aligned, and you have a reasonable cassette tape at the time, basic TDK AD was fine, and you do a recording of a CD or something, that was the standard at the time for high dynamic range, or a really good record, you can record it through onto the cassette tape that's moving at this speed. It's like a snail goes faster than the tape on a cassette deck. But with the noise reduction and proper tuning, you could do a recording that was indistinguishable from the source, which is like, what? And not with B-type, but with C-type noise reduction, you could, and then eventually this newer version called S noise reduction, and it surprised people. It still surprises me today that you could still do that. Anyway,
you know who told me to ask you that question, by the way? Brent Butterworth.
Hi, Brent.
Yeah,
that's funny.
So shout out to him. I asked him like, hey, can you give me something to throw him off a little bit? I want to throw him off his game plan.
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
So yeah, you did mention Dolby, and it says here on your bio, it says invented the revolutionary Surround EX 6.1 channel audio format pioneered in Star Wars and The Phantom Menace. I think Aaron's still using that.
How dare you? How dare you?
We tease him because they
don't tease me. They make fun of me and berate me constantly.
Yeah. He's not about Atmos and all that stuff, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's that about?
What's that about?
Yeah.
We go back way to 1988 or 1998. Sorry, I was off by 10 years or so. And Gary Wrightstrom, the sound designer for Phantom Menace, the first of the new series of the Star Wars, which is actually number 1 in the series, if you guys followed all that, comes up to me and goes, I'm doing stuff with the sound design of this that it needs more than just 5.1. I want sounds to be able to rotate all the way around in cinematic 5.1 or a properly set up 5.1 system. Really, at home, you really have sounds in front of you, and then kind of they go as far as this. They never really go behind you. And in his sound design, he was imagining all these things that are clearly going around you, surrounding you. And so he had all these ideas like, we're going to record more sounds. We're going to put them on some different track. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it was all about a new format of film sound recording. It was like, nah, you can't really launch a movie with a brand new actually recording format on the film. You're just not going to get there. The history of film sound is littered with dozens and dozens of formats that people tried to launch, and it just never really went anywhere. Witness DTS, which is a very good multi-channel recording scheme on a separate disc, was around for a while, and it was like, it's too complicated. So I came up with a way to do what he wanted to do, which was to matrix encode a back channel into the two side or the two surround channels of a 5.1 mix. It's a phase matrix encoding, that's similar to what's in ProLogic, and in which you take the three channels, the side left, side right, and back, and you mash them into the two tracks with a special coding, and then in the movie theater you unmash it. Separate the puzzle back out, left, right, and back, and you end up being able to make a spaceship go all the way around you, and or a whatever sound effect you want it to do. And that development started at THX, then in a joint venture essentially with Dolby. A joint venture would not be the right name because there was no money exchange, but it was a partnership with Dolby. It was implemented by Dolby in these devices that were added to movie theaters for the release of Phantom Menace.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
We have a comment here. It says from Reverend Slim. He says Gary Rydstrom is one of my favorite designers. Those early Pixar flicks he did were some of the best 5.1 and EX tracks.
Those mixes, NEX, those mixes are insanely good. And the funny thing we're totally digressing. By the way, we were going to get into a podcast to talk about one really interesting thing, but I know
we definitely
can talk for the next 50 minutes and never get there. But hold on. What Gary did at Pixar to transcend some of the locked precepts of how film sound design is done was just insanely good. And those two precepts are interesting. One of them is dialogue is only ever in the center channel. You never move dialogue anywhere else. And there's a good reason for that. The benefit of that is you can sit anywhere in the theater and you always hear it coming from the middle of the screen. Yeah, but if somebody's walking across the sound field, walking across the screen saying, blah, 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 whatever it is, wouldn't you want the dialogue to follow the actor? And one of the cardinal rules in film sound design is, I don't care, the dialogue stays in the center. And Gary said, I don't care, I'm moving the dialogue to go with it. And some of that is Pixar and the progressiveness there. Some of it is like, well, it's a cartoon, it's an animation, you can do whatever you want. And so you'll find a lot more active sound field in those Pixar movies. And then the other one is that most traditional directors don't like a lot of surrounds and back. They want your attention on the screen because that's where all the action is. And it's true that if you start to put a lot of things back here on the top, the audience just out of instinct of preservation, you're going to look up there when you clearly hear a sound that's up there. You're in the middle of a movie. You're going to look up there and now you're looking at a wall with a bunch of speakers. You're out of the movie. And so film directors are really very conservative about how much stuff you put there. And then us home theater folks who love stuff everywhere, we bought all these speakers, we want to hear stuff flying everywhere. We're like, well, that's kind of boring. And this movie's broken. And then we crank up the surrounds to have more action. But know that the intended sound design by most directors, not necessarily the audio people, the sound directors, is it's very front heavy on purpose. And Gary, on some of those Pixar movies, just the stuff is everywhere. And it's fun.
Yeah,
and it's fun.
I mean, we can get back to that. I know that you have something that you want to talk about, and we can definitely get back on the topic of where sounds are placed. It's kind of one of my notes here.
What I wanted to say about that is, in one of those very active soundtracks in a Pixar movie, I don't think anybody walked out of the movie theater going, I want my money back. There was too much stuff coming out of the side wall and the back wall, and it's all wrong. No, people love it. And so this is one of those things that happen in all kinds of creative art form. Italian cuisine for the longest time was osso buco and pasta done a certain way. And then, somebody said, we're going to do things a little differently. It's still going to be Italian, but we're going to move forward, and it's fine, Anyway, end of that topic. Hold on. I'm stepping off the soapbox.
Okay.
Now, if you can't catch the show, we do have an audio version at anchor.fm/daily HiFi. So make sure to go on over there if you like to listen to the show.